Hello, everybody, and welcome or welcome back to the second shelf and to kind of a chatty video inspired by a video I saw on Karen's channel from Run Right Reads. And she was inspired by another bibliophile reads, Greg, who is a new to me booktuber. And both videos are about the question, do I have too many books? Do I have too many books? And I really loved Karen's video, and it was so funny, especially, you have to watch it, because especially when she started touching all her books, you will understand why if you haven't watched her video when I come to that third criteria. Anyway, so I thought, yeah, that's a subject that a lot of us readers and a lot of us who are on YouTube talking about books are asked or ask themselves. It's always a topic, how many books should you have, quote unquote? Is there a number that is too much? So yeah, and I was in a chatty mood today. So I thought I'm going to make my own video about too many books. So the first, I'm going to going along with those three criteria or questions. So the first question that is asked in Karen's video is, do you have room for your books? And she rightfully says, well, there are two aspects to that question. First is shelf room. And the other question is, do you have, if the shelves are full, like those, do you have more room in your house to put up more shelves? So the second question, the first question, rooms on your shelves. Well, at the moment, my shelves, this is, by the way, the room that I work in. So this is my workspace, and I have bookcases behind me, all nonfiction and all kind of work related. So I mean biographies, history, all that nonfiction stuff. There's a whole Thomas Mann shelf that I needed for my research when I wrote my first novel about Thomas Mann. There's also nonfiction just in general. So yeah. Anyway, this is my workroom. I don't know why I told you this, because the question is, do you have enough, do you have room, shelf space? These shelves are pretty full, but there are not that many books coming into the house that have to go on these shelves. My main fiction is in another room, which I call the book room. I will insert a picture here of at least one part of the room, and the shelves there are double stacked. And what I mean, I will insert a second picture. So it's, if I have 4, 5, 6 books from the same author, I will only leave one to see, and the others will be put behind, because the shelves are so deep, and I think it's a waste of space, to not put anything behind, but I not want to know what is behind. So that's where I keep the majority of my books, and there is enough shelf space. And if I run out of shelf space, which I do regularly, I still have room to put in more shelves. I don't have books in my living room. I have an open space living room, so kitchen, dining area, living room is one open space. And it's not that I don't want to have books smelling like food, because all the other rooms have open doors as well. So I don't like closed doors. So all my rooms are always open. There's no door closed. But even though I read a lot in the living room on my couch, I find it, in a way, claustrophobic to have books staring at me all the time, because they have so much to say, and it feels like if I had books in the living room, it felt as it would feel if all the books constantly screaming at me, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but that books have a lot to say. So I'm choosing. I mean, I had books in the living room in my previous apartment, but only behind me. So when I was sitting on the couch, looking out to the window, I couldn't see my books, and that worked okay. But in this apartment, the couch is in front of a window, so I don't have wall space behind me, and I have enough room because I have this room and I have the book room, so I have enough other rooms to put books in. But I don't like to feel the books talking to me all the time. So I'd rather keep my living area free of books. And that sounds really, really weird for somebody who loves to read, but I don't know, maybe you understand it. Let me know in the comments whether you understand it. So to answer that question fully, do you have room to put shelves? I would have at least 3 walls in the living room to put more shelves, but I'm not gonna. So you always can be inventive with shelves, I feel, and I don't think shelf space or putting up more shelves is really for me a criterion. I think people. I made a video. If I find it, I will put a link down below. I made a video once about types of readers, whether you are a collector or a curator. So I have a friend of mine. She had this one bookshelf about as big as this one for her whole life. And she doesn't need more shelf space because she only keeps books that she wants to reread or are meaningful to her for some reason. And everything else that she reads is donated or gifted to somebody. I'm not that person. I just hoard all the books. So as hoarders, we need more shelf space and more room. I don't think people who are curators have an issue and they never feel that they have too many books, I guess. For me, it's not, I don't know. I think some people love if they have stacks of books of everywhere, if every wall space is filled with bookcases. If you feel comfortable with that, that's fine. Then you don't have too many books. I don't think there is a rule that applies to everybody in the same way. If you feel you have too many books because it's a waste of space, or you have books that you actually don't want to keep and you find you want to get rid of them, that's a different story. But I think this idea of having too many books is not something that you can pinpoint in terms of rules, but I still find the topic interesting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made this video. Anyway, the second criterion is do you have access? And I already showed you the picture. I'll show it again here of the books that are behind books. But I still have access, and I know, if I look at, I think this was the shelf with Carol Shields, I know that I have more than one book by her. So I just have to go behind it. I don't know exactly whether this is meant to be, if you have these 10-meter stacks, you might have difficulty to access the book at the bottom. But I don't know, other than that I only keep books on shelves. I do have books in storage, but those are books in Dutch that are from my apartment that I still had in Amsterdam, and I don't read Dutch anymore, so they are in storage, and I don't have access to them. That's true, but I don't want to get rid of them either. So that might be weird, come to think of it, but there's lots of stuff in that storage anyway. So yeah, at a certain point, I want to get rid of the storage space, actually, because it costs money, and maybe I should try to get rid of the things, but there's things in there that I really treasure. So we'll see. Do you have storage? Do you have stuff in storage? Let me know in the comment if you have stuff in storage. Anyway, and the last one, this was the one that I really, it was so hilarious, but also so made me feel all tender and juicy inside when I saw Karen touch all her books. Because the third criterion is, if you haven't touched a book or thought about the book about a book in 3 years, you might want to get rid of it. And even though the books in the book room, I touch certainly all of them once a year because I clean the shelves and so put them back and I rearrange them. But I think what the meaning is, if you haven't taken it out and, either looked at it or reread it, but that for me is not a criterion at all. I love the touching of all the books that Karen did. And I think I stand in front of my shelves sometimes and look at the books, and then I take something out and I know I've read it, but I have no memory. And then I flip through the pages. But for me, as a hoarder, as a collector and not a curator, it's not really important that I think about a book once every 3 years, or that I actually touch the physical book once every 3 years. So that's just not something that a collector, a hoarder, is thinking about, because you just put every book that you buy in on the shelf. For a curator, that might be really an issue. I think my friend that I talked about earlier, she would be, if she looks at her shelves and she needs more space because she has 4 or 5 new books brought in, she might think, well, this book, I kept it now for 5 years, but I'm really not going to reread it, so this can go. So for those people, I understand it, but for me, that's just not an issue, even though I think it's a good idea. And I really also try to do it, that once in a blue moon, you look at your shelf and at the, books on your shelf, just to contemplate what you have. So, as I said, I don't think you can answer the question, do you have too many books in general? I don't feel that I have too many books. I feel I have just the right amount, so to speak, in terms of right now. But there are always new books coming in. So my collection will grow, and it will continue to grow. For me, the question is easy to answer. No, I don't feel I have too many books. I love acquiring books. You know my rule. If you follow my channel, I can buy books as long as I can afford them. And as long as I read more books than I bring into the house. So as long as there's not this, for me, big gap between acquiring books and reading books, I have no issue. And I don't have this, zero TBR urge. I do look at the turnover, so to speak. I made a video a couple of months ago about the books that I acquired since I started BookTube, and whether I read them or not. That's just a good way for me to think about, there are still these books, and I mark the books that are unread on my shelf. Those are the books that I know I will read at some point, but not in the very near future. The books that I plan on reading in the very near future are on a separate little bookcase, TBR shelf, whatever you want to call it. So I'm digressing, as always, when I talk about books. But it's such a fascinating subject, what people feel, whether they should have less books or more books. So I'm really interested in your comments on this subject. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't watched Karen's video, please do. It's so wonderful seeing her touching all the books. Anyway, I'm digressing again. Thank you for watching. Looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.